Greetings, I am Erin Patten, metaphysical master in a millennial age, and it is my life's purpose to guide you and organizations along an enlightened path. So I invite you to sit comfortably and tune in as I welcome you to the Meta Business Millennial, where we get the real conversations you won't get in the boardroom so that we understand this is exactly the path we need to be on in order to grow, evolve, and thrive. Greetings, I am Erin Patten, also known as Master L, and welcome to the live broadcasting of the Meta Business Millennial podcast. Today is such a perfect episode for the collective in that I'm going to be doing live Q&A, and we are live on LinkedIn, we're live on Facebook, we're live on Instagram, on my personal Instagram at I am Erin Patten, and also live on the at Meta Business Millennial podcast handle on Instagram. And also we're live on YouTube. So there's no reason why you can't find us live today because we're across all streaming channels. And I am just so excited again, like I said, to be launching this live Q&A opportunity with you to be able to answer questions and really start to channel divine solutions for you and for other business leaders who are really wanting to move forward in their businesses, in their lives with purpose, with intention, with compassion, with love, with all these higher intentions and emotions, and doing so successfully and profitably. And I highly encourage you, if you haven't already, to follow us across these platforms at I am Erin Patten, and also follow the at Meta Business Millennial podcast, and then definitely share this with a friend. Share it with your friends, share it with your colleagues, and like it, comment. Let me see you all coming into the room. I see you all coming into the room. Hey guys. And certainly just let me know. We can start now with questions. So I'll just give a little bit of time for people to come into the room and type in their questions, because I know there's always a little lag there. And, while I'm waiting for you all to bring in your questions, the reason why I was inspired to do this was because very honestly, my team were coming to me with their own questions around what was going on in their own lives and what they wanted to see happen in their businesses. And they were feeling like I was just I was hitting it on the nail, answering their questions. They're like, why don't we open this up to your listeners and to your followers, that they may get their answers answered in real time. And it was such a brilliant idea. We put together a little bit of a campaign around this. And, today is our first day, May 6th, launching this live Q&A. And it really feels like an opportunity to do so, on a regular basis, particularly if you all are feeling, the value and receiving the value in the live Q&A. And additionally, I did a keynote, impromptu keynote this past week when I was at a conference in Fort Worth. And I was speaking and sharing my story and, doing, my thing, and opened it up for questions. And literally people had such deep, such profound questions around how do I, lead in this day and time? How do I lead particularly children? How do I define success, if it's not always about the money? And, and it was really a beautiful opportunity to real time, engage with people around how they specifically can really start to move into this path, if you will, of becoming an enlightened leader. And what does that even look like? And this, obviously my ideas and my vision for the meta business world are very lofty. They're very big. And so I really, 700 to teach, inspire, empower 700 enlightened business leaders by 2033. And, and a lot of times people don't even know what enlightenment is. I mean, I think here we may use like I had this enlightening conversation, yet really what is the path to enlightenment look like? And again, I'm talking because I'm waiting for you all to drop in the questions. So please definitely drop in your questions. And I'll just continue to do the intro while you guys type in your questions. And and so for leaders and really understanding what it is to be enlightened, I always take it back to Dr. David Hawkins, who wrote the book The Map of Consciousness and really created a very rigorous study um, and profile and research around the levels of consciousness, and being able to see that once you reach the level of enlightenment energetically, you're able to touch a million people. And so for me, this vision for 700 enlightened business leaders sounds small, yet it can reach, at minimum 700 million people, this type of work. And so it's really important for us to be able to create these forums, create these spaces where we can really start to dialogue around what it means to be conscious, what it means to be enlightened, what it means to, engage these higher emotions around vulnerability, around compassion, around empathy, and how do we address these difficult scenarios, whether in business, whether sociopolitically, whether personally, with these higher emotions. And so yeah, I highly encourage you all. I see there's a few of y'all in the room that are able to type in, whether on Instagram or on YouTube, your questions. And I am going to be more than happy to respond to them. So please definitely take the time to write in your questions. And, in future, we may create platforms where you can submit questions beforehand, so I can start responding to some of the questions. But since while you guys are all typing it in, the one question that came up last week that I felt could be relevant, particularly to this group, it was around how do I measure my success? Because we were talking about wealth, we were talking about money as one of the primary drivers for success, and also how do we kind of break free from that very narrow view of what success is. And it was such a great question because I consider myself a wealth advisor and really advise on wealth, and success and wealth are pretty much synonymous when you think about business, because a lot of people associate wealth with money. And so when someone was talking about, hey, everyone that's coming into the room, I want to encourage you all to drop questions into the chat so that we can start the live Q&A. In the meantime, I'm just going through a question that came up from a group that I was in last week around success and wealth, essentially. And to me, they are very much, and to many in the business realm, very much synonymous, because we generally define wealth by money, and we define success by money metrics. And so when we start to see that our wealth and our success, the spectrum is so much wider and deeper than money, then this is how we start to have that success, like fulfillment energy or feelings in that which we do. And I brought up an example of, for me, like I've been going through some challenging situations, both legally and in my business and personally. Responding to those emails, I'd be like hunched over my, and even sort of like the wealth, the health in the wealth aspect, it was fulfilled for me in that when I was sending these emails and receiving these emails today, they don't cause so much distress in my being. I don't get the pains in my belly, and I don't get the the T-Rex arms and shoulders by responding, because I have so much more peace and resolve and accepting what's going on, the difficulties of what's going on, and how to approach them. And so, it seems very trivial, but at the end of the day, so much of ability to perform as leaders depends on our health, depends on our ability, our energy, our ability to show up. And if we're stressed out by, trivial emails, how can we really show up? And so I'll start with a question from, it looks like Pratik Pujari, and it reads, could you provide guidance on strategies for maintaining mental health while exploring career opportunities in the HR sectors, particularly in the US and Canada? And this is a really great question. And it also kind of builds upon what I was sharing around that success and that wealth for self. Strategies for maintaining mental health while exploring career opportunities. So essentially, this person is going through a job search, and um, the job search process, whether you have a job or you don't have a job, can be very stressful. And one way I always coach in terms of getting through challenging times is to program your mind for success. And so if you're looking for a job in the HR sector in the US and Canada, what exactly is the role you're looking for, and how do you speak that on your over yourself? Because there is absolutely power in the tongue. So, before you're doing your interviews, I would definitely recommend you doing this morning and night. I was just talking about this with a friend yesterday, speaking your affirmations over yourself. Because oftentimes when we're going through this process, we're discouraged. We're discouraged before we even hit the send button. We're discouraged because we have to put together these cover letters, we have to put together these resumes, we have to have all these calls, and it feels like work, which it is. And we want the work to be enjoyable. We want the work to be like, okay, I'm going after something that's really going to be powerful and transformational for me. If not the end all be all, it's absolutely a step in the right direction. And so we want to be able to look at the opportunity in that way, that I'm taking a step in the right direction. This may not be my end all be all dream job, but it's certainly an opportunity for me to learn and grow and develop. And if those are your intentions, then you need to speak that over yourself. Like, I have this great HR director position and I'm flourishing. And you want to speak it in the present tense because you want to feel the vibration now. Like I always say, the vibration precedes the manifestation. So you need to speak as if you already are in the role. I am a very, proficient and effective HR leader. I am supporting my organization with my HR activities and responsibilities. I am supporting my employees successfully. Speaking these truths over yourself in the now moment, especially looking in the mirror, is a huge and very easy way to accelerate your path in that direction, particularly if you're aligned in that. So, I speak a lot about this alignment because we want to make sure that we're doing and moving towards goals that are truly aligned with us. Because when they're not, that's when we have a lot more of the resistance. And even if we are going towards goals that are aligned with us, and we're blocking ourselves, or we're having the self-doubt, then that also creates resistance. So the key for you, the strategies around the mental health, is really to speak life into where you're going. And this is not the toxic positive, you know, oh, going there and I'm going to get it and I'm going to get it, and not acknowledging the nervousness you may have, or not acknowledging the anxiety that you have, or not acknowledging the anger that you have from the rejection from roles that you don't get accepted to. You must acknowledge those emotions. So when you're trying to maintain your mental health around this, you want to make sure that you are also honoring all the emotions that come up for you. Yes, you want to speak life into your role. Yes, you want to speak life into this opportunity. But when you're sending this email, notice how you feel. When you're sending off that resume, notice how you feel. Are you defeated? Are you anxious? Are you happy? And of course, as you're noticing it, don't judge it. There's no reason to judge how you feel. These are your feelings, but notice them and then nurture whatever it is. If it's not at the highest level, if it's not of a happy kind of positive vibe, then nurture, what is this anxiety about? Do I not believe that I'm capable of this? Then I really need to speak some life over myself. I'm capable of this role. I'm very excited to interview with this company. I am a proficient and effective and very powerful HR leader. These are the types of affirmations you should be speaking over yourself. And I hope this really helps you. As I pronounce it right, Pratik Pujari. I really hope this supports you in that journey. And feel free, of course, to to follow up with more questions. We have plenty of time to talk through this. Um, Up next, we have the time is here and now. And the question reads: in light of increasing concerns around mental health and well being, what initiatives or resources can organizations implement to support wellness, the holistic wellness of their employees? Well, this is a really great question because it really gets at what Pratik was asking, but focused more on the organizational end. And let me tell you that there are a lot of things that organizations can do, including hiring them in the business world to support them. But beyond hiring us to support the organizations, is really working on training and uplifting leadership. Because if the leaders are not aligned in this wellness work, if the leaders are not aligned in initiatives around mental health and well-being, then it's for naught. Okay, because the leaders and organizations truly carry the energy and the direction and the vision of the organization. So for me, I always am of the mind that leaders have to stand behind wellness initiatives, well-being initiatives that support them first. And, that can look like retreats for leadership. That can look like bringing in, of course, third party advisors and consultants like the Meta Business World. Other leadership development organizations are really centered around how to give leaders the tools, the energy they need to really sustain their employees. And then, of course, doing initiatives for the organization that can look like, bringing in someone, of course, like me, that can speak inspirationally, motivationally to employees and help them understand what it is to be focused on their own well being, to be focused on their wellness. Bringing in mindfulness instructors, meditation instructors, yoga teachers. I've definitely participated with organizations that have done this type of work. And I found that participation can be varied. So that's the tricky part about bringing in these classes for employees versus having this more or less cultural shift. That's what comes from leadership that really has lasting impact in an organization. So for me, the answer to that question is always going to be around leadership, prioritizing well-being, prioritizing wellness for themselves, and then finding ways to share that in a means that's authentic with the organization. Because you can't just have a wellness day or have a yoga day or have a retreat day and that be the end all be all. It has to be a sustainable practice of wellness. It has to be a sustainable practice of mindfulness that is modeled by leadership and then felt by the broader organization. So I hope that answers your question. The time is here and now. I'll go on to I play chess, and the question is, how do you process the anxiety that comes with a career plateau? Feels like not moving is equal to regression. And that is a good question because as I mentioned before to Pratik, the anxiety in and of itself that you carry is essentially what's creating the resistance and likely creating that plateau for you. And what we want to start to realize is that our anxiety can be managed, and our anxiety can be managed through the the uplifting of our own identity. And that's why I always speak to the affirmations, because it's an opportunity to reprogram your mind around how you think about yourself and how you think about what you're doing. And are you really aligned with your the goals of your role? Is it time to rethink your career? And if you're happy in your career, that's one thing, and you're finding yourself stymied, then that's coming from everything always comes from within. And for me, I always love to give my own personal examples, and I'm sure this will resonate with you too. My anxiety came from my childhood, my traumatic ass childhood, and I'm sure you resonate deeply with that too. And so, it's really incumbent upon you to start doing the deep work of healing the inner child wounds, because anxiety manifests, okay, in the career plateau. That's what's the current manifestation of it. But the anxiety is deeply rooted in something that comes from a long held false belief in your being. So the key to releasing anxiety is to start speaking truths over yourself, and then doing the work to release those old false beliefs that created that anxiety to begin with. And anxiety comes around, particularly for a career plateau. I'm sure it looks like money issues. It looks like, competition in the workplace, looking around you and seeing other people maybe progressing and you're not progressing. And then, of course, the personal self-doubt. Then you start to punish yourself like something's wrong maybe with me. And so I highly suggest, if I can give you support for right now in managing the anxiety, is finding a way to work with someone in doing the healing work, the inner child work. And, that can start very simply with therapy, that can start with energy healing, that can start with your own sort of, research around inner child healing and nurturing yourself. Because the affirmations are, of course, a great thing. Yet it takes so much longer for them to actually be effective if there's no belief in them. If you still have the anxiety, you still have the insecurity, then the affirmations really you're just saying words. So you really have to believe what you're saying to yourself. You really have to believe what you're speaking over yourself. And oftentimes the anxiety can block that. So I in many ways, I'm disassociating your anxiety and the career plateau, because in many ways, one doesn't have anything to do with the other. When you're able to nurture yourself, nurture your own being, and come into a place of higher emotions, of happiness, of more sustained joy, of more love and appreciation for what's going on in your life, you'll notice the career and everything else just starts to unfold naturally. It really does. But the longer we hold anxiety in our being, the longer we hold fear, the longer we hold insecurity, then the rest of our life is not going to move either. It's going to stay stymied, whether in relationships, whether in business, in our careers, in our family. So we really have to do the self work in order to see the progression in any area of our life. So I hope that was supportive for you, in really moving through that anxiety, and happy to speak more to that, because that's a really deep question. Okay. Next one's from Katie Cat, and it reads, how do you establish healthy boundaries between personal and work life? Well, that's a very good question around boundaries, because boundaries are established the more we know who we are. And, a lot of this work of getting to know who we are is trial and error. So for me, I have, had a lot of fits and starts with how to set proper boundaries, because I've been in different places emotionally in my life. I've been setting boundaries by just stopping communication. I've setting boundaries um, by setting restrictions on when I can even look at emails or look at social media. And this came from feeling into my own emotions, like what gave me, to the earlier point, the most anxiety. Like for me, looking at and scrolling on social media gave me a lot of anxiety. So I definitely had to set boundaries on that. And if you're finding that, particularly this question around boundaries between personal and work life, are that people find themselves working more than they are contributing into their families or contributing to their relationships, because likely they gain more fulfillment from their work identity. A lot of people just aren't as attached to being a mother or father or aren't as attached to being a spouse. Like that doesn't give them the fulfillment, but performing at work gives them everything they need. So this is again coming to the piece around knowing who you are. Am I just this workhorse? Or am I also these other things? And if I am also these other things, like a mother, a father, a spouse, a daughter, a sister, a friend, then how much do I value those other aspects of myself? And the more you come to understand that value, then the easier it is to start to put up those boundaries. Otherwise, if you don't extract any value from those other areas of your life, then you're not going to prioritize the boundaries. Like you can say you want to spend more time with your family, but when you're actually doing and spending the time with your family, you aren't fulfilled, then you're not going to prioritize it. So you really have to sit with yourself and acknowledge where you are at right now and be okay with it because that took years for me to heal around. Why do I still feel like I need to be sending emails and breastfeeding my baby? It doesn't make any sense. However, for me, especially at that time, I had no identity in motherhood. It was so new, it was so fresh, and so much of my identity and my value came from just feeling like I was working all the time, even though I really wasn't working on shit. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like in hindsight. But something in that moment made me feel like I needed to be more connected to my work because that gave me value. So I really needed to heal around what is my worth? Where is my values lie? Now I see completely differently in that I really want to give that unsolicited, fully present time with my child, that fully present time with my friends as best as I can, or my mother, or my family. And that requires a very intentional knowing of myself that I'm more than just this work life. And then when you start to have that awareness, that's when the boundaries actually get honored. Or else we're just saying boundaries and talking about boundaries and never doing anything about it, which is what a lot of people do. So I hope that was supportive for you, Katie Cat, in setting boundaries. The key is just really knowing who you are, honoring where you're at, and really starting to align yourself with your values. What do you really value? And then set boundaries from there. All right. Cool. Oh, wow. Okay, so I'm gonna answer this question from Jagbar, and then probably one more after this. But the question is, how do we manage anxiety induced by competitiveness in this new world of AI and tech, where I feel less secure than before? Okay, so I answered this, Jack Bear. Actually, I have an article around this and a podcast around human consciousness and AI. So I highly recommend you reference those after I do this too, because this is going to be a continuing concern and fear for a lot of people around managing anxiety with AI and tech and feeling insecure around the competitiveness of it. Will I lose my job? Will, I be, aged out? And the answer is no. So fundamentally, there should be no fear when you're focused on your consciousness because AI and machines and tech can only be as good as their creator. So they can only be as good as we are. Yet if we're continually focusing on our consciousness, if we're continually focusing on growing our awareness, tapping into our emotions, machines cannot emote. Machines do not have the ability to have emotions. So essentially, our emotions, our consciousness are our superpowers. And I'm going to say that again, our emotions and our consciousness are our superpowers. This is what makes us superhumans, Superman, superwomen, Superman, superwoman. Because we have the ability to feel, machines can't feel. So we have a higher consciousness than most machines now, and going into the future, hopefully all machines. So the key to really reducing your anxiety around the competitiveness of machines is knowing that you are not a machine, knowing you are greater, knowing it, trusting it, and nurturing that you are greater than a machine. And by nurturing it is all the other things kind of compiled that I've spoken to around knowing who you are, knowing your values, and really tapping into growing your awareness. And growing your awareness is all of that I discussed in the past as well. Healing the inner child wounds, healing the trauma wounds, the generational trauma wounds, and coming into the fullness of your being here and now. And as you start to come into that fullness, you really start to activate a higher energy and a higher power that can never compete with AI and can never compete with tech. And I really hope that you can receive this. And I'm going to continue to speak to this because this is an absolute truth. There is no way that AI and tech can replace you. Maybe they can replace a function that you perform, they can replace a task, an activity that you perform, but they can never outperform or replace you. You are a unique being, a unique man, unique woman. I'm not sure. And I think a man looks like a unique man, and you have gifts. Of course, the gift of emotions and the gift of consciousness. And then who knows beyond that? So you really must lean into the fact that you are greater than any technology can ever be. They seem really smart, they seem really fast, but you can be greater in some other capacity. And this is the unique opportunity that we have for this new earth paradigm to really call forth these higher energies, these superman, superwoman powers that we've never experienced before, but we have the ability to experience now. And that's why tech is rapidly developing and rapidly growing to support us in moving past these mundane tasks of being grocery shopper, being grocery checkout people, or whatever kind of mundane jobs that we've been doing, that mankind's been doing for all these thousands of years. Now it's time to really step into something greater. And this is why I truly believe we have the ability to be wealthier than we've ever imagined, being happier than we've ever imagined, because now we have the support of technology that can really automate a lot of the things we spent so much time and energy laboring over. Now we can really get to the fun of life. And this is what I hope you can trust in. And this I hope, can relieve and ease some of the anxiety around competition. There is no reason for us to compete with that which is less than us. A machine and AI and technology is less than a man, less than a woman, and can never equal us and our abilities. So I hope you can trust in that and receive that. And I'm going to answer one more question before I sign off for today, because this has been a little bit longer episode, which is completely fine. The Q&A is a beautiful opportunity to really tap into the collective consciousness and heal and soothe and bring some of the light to some of these issues. And the last question is from Mob Executive, and it reads, how do you encourage the team to cultivate a growth mindset and foster harmony within the organization? Okay. Again, this goes back to the leadership. And this is why at the Meta Business World, we really focus on supporting and coaching and inspiring and training and empowering leadership, because the team members always look to the leader. I mean, it's just human nature. It's just mankind nature. It's just our nature. We are always looking for someone to inspire us. And when that leader is holding that growth mindset for the team, and the team really has the capacity to be vulnerable, the capacity to think big and see bigger, then that creates the more harmonious environment. 100%. So really, as leaders, and this is a great kind of closure for everyone who tuned in, because everyone here is a leader. Wherever you're sitting, you are leading. Is whether you're sitting wherever you're sitting in your work organization, wherever you're sitting in your family, your friendships, you are leading. People are watching you. And so it is incumbent upon you to embody that growth mindset. When someone in your team comes to you with a challenge, having the courage to resolve that tension, or creating the space for resolution for that tension or that challenge, and understanding that there's solutions for every problem. That's the growth mindset, is there are infinite permutations, infinite possibilities. That's the growth mindset. There is no lack in this world. There is no poverty in this world. As long as we trust and know where we're going or where we want to go, we will for sure find a way to get there. And this is why we do the affirmations every day. This is why we reprogram our mind. This is why we show up in our fullness, authentic truth. Happy, sad, mad, angry. Because the more that we are moving in these truths of emotions, the more people around us can move in their own truth. And that's where the growth happens. And then some people may fall off, some people may come on, and then that starts to create the harmony, because the harmony, just like in music, it's created by the frequencies. The harmony is created by the gathering, the togetherness of all the notes, of all the music, of all the frequencies in harmony, flowing, not contrasting or working against each other. Harmony is working with each other. The melodies, the frequencies, the energies working with each other. That's harmony. So this is a great place to sort of end this Q&A, live Q&A. I'm so grateful that you guys brought some real ass questions, and I hope that I was able to really provide some sound solutions for you. We're gonna start doing this more regularly. It's feeling like maybe once a month can work really well for this live Q&A. And if you have more questions, feel free to DM me at I am Erin Patten. Certainly follow me at I am Erin Patten, the Meta Business Millennial Podcast. Also, please follow us on the Meta Business Millennial Podcast on Instagram, and share this with a friend. Like this video. Really want this to be felt by the collective, particularly the business collective. So yes, thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for your support, and I will see you all next week. Peace. Did you really love this episode of the Meta Business Millennial Podcast? Well, I am honored, and I appreciate you subscribing, leaving a review, and sharing it with your friends, because your feedback allows us to co-create more enlightened conversations. And if you're interested in growing your soul now, head over to my website, erinpatten.com, to find all the show notes, links, and free resources to get your energy activated today. In the meantime, stay bright, my friends. Much love and light. Peace.